Good morning. I'm meteorologist Shane Hinton with your September 26th morning tropical update. Now, as of around the 9 o'clock in the morning hour, here is the latest on Hurricane Helene. Now, I definitely have to emphasize the time because we do expect Hurricane Helene to be making some very big changes over the next several hours as it continues to trek towards Florida. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center as of the 7 o'clock in the morning advisory. Maximum sustained winds at 100 miles per hour, moving north-northeast at 12 miles per hour. Now, this is a very large system in diameter, in fact over 510 miles wide. It is already bringing tropical rain and tropical wind to the state of Florida. What we have to do is on this particular side of the system, in the northeasterly quadrant and even the eastern side overall, we have to look up for the potential for some tornadic activity. That's where it is typically higher with tropical systems. And we'll also have to see some of those tropical downpours that do move fairly quickly. Here's the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center. As you can see, it has gotten significantly thinner, and that means that there is higher consensus or agreement in the forecast models on a landfall this evening in the Big Bend of Florida. Now, once again, just as a reminder, I know I sound like a broken record here, this forecast cone does not indicate impact. It is just simply trying to show where the center of the system may go. It can go on the outer edge of it, but the center or in the middle or any place in between. But the impacts are definitely being felt well outside of the cone. We are expecting that landfall later this evening. It is expected to rapidly intensify to a major hurricane by around 2 o'clock this afternoon. For a Category 3 hurricane. Now, keep in mind there's still some runway here for it to maybe even to intensify into a Category 4 hurricane, but still too far out to know if that is going to happen. It's going to move further inland and eventually downgrade into a remnant low pressure system. And then you notice kind of this little loop-de-loop here just south of the Midwest portion of the country. And this kind of pattern and network right here is definitely going to lead to heavier rainfall totals for this part of the country. So one would think that the heaviest rainfall is actually going to be upon landfall. That is not the case, as this is going to be sitting over that portion of the southeast. That area will probably get our highest rainfall totals. Now, you mentioned, or you probably recall that I mentioned rapid intensification with this system, and I kind of want to break down what that means. Okay, rapid intensification is exactly what it sounds like. We expect for this system to quickly strengthen in a short amount of time, but how much does it have to strengthen and what is that time frame? Well, the National Hurricane Center defines it as a 30-knot wind speed increase within 24 hours. Now, when you calculate that over, that's roughly 35 miles per hour with our wind speeds. And almost 80% of major tropical cyclones rapidly intensify. So this is a fairly common occurrence whenever it comes to major tropical cyclones. And this is projected to happen even more often whenever you factor in warmer ocean surface temperatures like we're seeing. Now, in regard to tropical alerts, you'll notice that almost the entire state of Florida is under either a tropical storm warning or a hurricane warning. The hurricane warning being indicated by the hot pink here and extending all the way into Georgia. You can see all the rest of Georgia, all of South Carolina, and even western North Carolina are under tropical storm warnings. Now, in regard to the rainfall, let's show you the projections here. As I mentioned, you would think naturally that the heaviest rainfall is actually going to be here near landfall, but that's not the case. It's actually going to be further up to the north. Now, in addition to the rainfall, which you can see, we're talking maybe northwards of 7 to 10 inches in the Big Bend area of Florida. The storm surge, I think, is going to be the doozy here. Up to 20 feet of storm surge on top of catastrophic hurricane force winds expected for this area. But let's zoom in here locally where that system in the forecast cone is kind of showing that loop-de-loop. Look at some of these rainfall projections. Western North Carolina having over 10 inches of rain. Some of the projections from the National Hurricane Center show up to 18 inches of isolated heavy downpours. It is also worth noting that because of all this rain and this region of the mountains here in North Carolina, we could very much have landslide concerns. Now, Helene has been really dominating the headlines here in the tropics, but it is worth noting that there are two other areas that we're monitoring. We have this area that's just off the east coast of Africa that has now a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. So this is looking likely to be our next named system. Then we also have Tropical Storm Isaac. Now, I will be honest with you here. Tropical Storm Isaac, a bit of a shocker for the hurricane community and the meteorological community, just because yesterday morning at this time, it only had a 10 to 20% chance of tropical development, not only over the 48-hour time frame, but over the 7-day time frame. So the fact that this was able to get its act together in such a short period of time is fairly impressive, but also fairly rare. It is expected to continue moving out toward the east. It's not going to pose a threat to the United States. It might even become a hurricane by the weekend. Now, if the system that is currently closer to the east coast of Africa, or west coast of Africa rather, becomes a named system, just as a reminder, we move on to the J name this year, which in the Atlantic Basin is Joyce. We will continue to track the tropics for you here in the KVUE Weather Center, and we'll provide updates on air and online.